is, what I will do is unplug the microphone, plug it back in again. Okay, how is that? I have now removed, okay, so I've taken out my microphone. Pam's just saying I've gone again, but I was getting comments saying you couldn't hear me. So I've now taken out the microphone. Can you tell me if you can hear me now? Okay, so Sandy can hear me now, Pam can hear me now. Great, okay, thank you. I have no idea what the issue is. So I will give up on the microphone and just use the one in my phone. So hopefully that will be okay. I think it's quite directional. So if I turn my head, you'll probably find the sound comes and goes, but that's better than a lot of faffing around, isn't it? I don't know what happened when you lost me. According to my phone, which is what I'm filming on, it said I was live, it said everything was running, but on my iPad everything stopped. So I don't know what caused that. One of those little Facebook glitches, which if you watch many Facebook lives, you'll see that there are people having a lot of problems at the moment. So I apologise for that, but we are back now and hopefully everything's going to be all right and we're going to be able to craft. Good, so people seem to think that the sound is better certainly than it was. Sandy thinks it's the Christmas gremlins at work early. You could be right. Right, I'm going to have some tea after all that. And then I'm going to talk to you again. Okay, all right. So, let me show you all the things that I'm going to be crafting with today. So, this is my sweet sampler. So there are pieces of card in here in 6 different colours to coordinate with the papers. So lots of greens, some red and some brown. The papers are beautiful. They're all double-sided. So I was talking about berries and greenery, and there is plenty of that in this pack. Lots of them will do all year round as well. I mean, this is fantastic for any time of year. So you don't have to keep them for Christmas, and if you've got leftovers you can continue to use them. This again would be an all year paper, as would this one. If you've got garden stamps, potted plants, this kind of herringbone brickwork would be beautiful to use with them all year round. So you've got 1/4 of a pack of the painted Christmas paper, 6 sheets of A4 card. Then you've got 1/4 of a pack of red rhinestones, a whole pack of the gold holly leaves. These are lovely, they're very thin, they won't add a lot of bulk to your cards. So a whole pack of those, you just fix them on with a glue dot and you're good to go. And then 2 meters of this pretty red and gold ribbon. It ties really nicely, and it's a lovely ribbon. It doesn't matter which side you have facing front. It's lovely. So it's beautiful whether you want to put it around sort of packages and parcels, or if you want to use it on your card front. Okay, so that is my little sampler from the suite. So if you don't want to buy whole packs of everything, contact me and order yourself a sampler. The sampler is, if you can collect it from me, it's £16. If you'd like me to post it to you, I absolutely can, and that'll cost you £18 second class. Use my email to order it. I'm taking orders for these up until the 29th of October, and then I'll post them out to you on the 26th of November. So you should have them by the beginning of December at the absolute outside. Okay. So that's the sweet sampler. Let's pop that out of the way. All right, so let me start off with a fairly straightforward card. So as always, I've made a sample to show you, and then I'm going to make another one that's the same but different. So I've just got a standard card base here. I've got a tag on there, some of that lovely cherry cobbler ribbon. I've used some of the gold holly leaves and a little bit of stamping, and of course some holly berries. I'm hoping if I lift this up slowly, my camera can focus. I'm still learning this. I don't know why changing the camera stand makes such a difference to how it focuses, but it really does. So it's very strange. What I haven't tried actually is moving the grid paper. Let's see if that makes a difference to how it focuses. Maybe it does, I'm not sure. Waiting for my iPad to catch up. As always, it's a long delay on this. Still doesn't want to focus as close as it used to. That's a complete mystery to me because I haven't changed the camera. I've only changed what it's standing on. But there we go. Technology is a bit of a mystery. Okay, so I've got some measurements for you. They're there. My card base is cherry cobbler. So it's just a standard card base, 8 inches by 5 3/4, and I've scored it at 4 inches. Then I have a layer of cards. So for this one, I've picked Evening Evergreen for my card layer because there's hints of Evening Evergreen in my paper, and I thought the dark colour set the paper off really nicely. So I'm going to just glue those two together first of all. My card layer is 5.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, and my patterned paper is 5 3/8 of an inch by 3 5/8 of an inch. So that's 5 3/8 by 3 5/8, and that's just given me a really narrow border. If 1/8 of an inch are too much for you, then just make it 5 1/4 by 3 1/2, and you'll just have a wider border around it. So then I have my tag here, which I have cut using the Tailor Made Tags dies. I think I've shown you these before. There are 2 different shapes of tags. I've used this one, which is fairly kind of traditional luggage label, just with the cut off corners there. But there's also this one, which has more of a shape to it. It's got little sort of shoulders and then a little curves on the corner. And so you've got 2 shapes of tags, and you've got 4 dies for each shape. They're all stitched around the edges, which is a really lovely detail. It cuts the hole for you, and then you also have these 2 dies here, which cut the little reinforcing shape to go around the hole. So this one with the oval hole goes with these, and this one with the round hole goes with these. And you can cut several of them at a time. Cut 4 of those and 3 of those, which is a real time saver. And it also means that you're not faffing around with tiny, tiny little dies. Okay, pop those back in there. So that's my tag. I picked the biggest tag, and then I cut my little reinforcing piece in Evening Evergreen. So I'm just going to glue that on now. First time I did this, I glued it on upside down, but the straight edge of the shape goes along the straight edge of the tag, which when you say it doesn't sound that surprising, but anyway, I managed to put it on upside down. Okay. Sandy surprised I'm drinking tea. She says gin, please. Honestly, if I was drinking gin, I wouldn't stick anything straight, Sandy, but don't let me stop you. If you think gin is what's needed, you just go right on ahead. Okay, so for my stamping, I'm just going to stamp some words on my tag. So I'm using a real old favourite stamp set. This is, I think, the 3rd year we've had this. It's called Perfectly Plaid. So you've got some Christmas trees here, pine trees in various styles, and the pine tree punch cuts them out beautifully. Then there's lots of words as well, and then little pine cones as well in 2 styles. So it's a lovely stamp set. I'm using the Merry Christmas, which I use and use and use. I just like the size of it. I like the font. So that's a really, really great stamp. And I'm using Cherry Cobbler ink. And I'm going to stamp this on the slant on my tag and then put my tag on my card so that the words look straight. So if that doesn't make sense, hopefully it will in a minute. So that's my stamping. And I am actually going to clean that stamp straight away, only because it's Cherry Cobbler ink. And first of all, I will lean on it and get it all up my arm. And secondly, as you can see, it really stains. So the quicker I can clean that stamp, the better. And if you're looking at my hands, I wasn't actually stamping with pink ink this morning. I was changing the ink cartridge in my printer and I got absolutely covered in magenta. So apologies for the state of my hands. But you've probably seen me with inky fingers before. So I'm going to pop this on here now, and I'm just going to work it so that that wording, this line here, is parallel with the bottom of my card. I didn't put my first one up on dimensionals, but I think I will with this just for a change. Because I'm going to put a bow on this, I'm going to have to send it large letter anyway, or hand deliver it. It'll probably be one of those that I hand over. So adding a few dimensionals is neither here nor there in terms of the postage. I always add plenty of dimensionals because I don't want the centre of my tag to go saggy, because none of us want saggy middles, do we? Getting darker and darker outside. The sun was beautiful earlier, and I'm wondering if we're going to get some rain now. I hope not. Okay, so now I'm just going to get that as straight as I can. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to bring in some of that lovely ribbon and tie a bow. So this is just what I call my bow in the air. If you watched my Friday live, I can't think when it was, several months ago anyway, Become a Bow Expert. I talked about all kinds of bows and included this one that I call a bow in the air. So I don't start with a knot, I just start with the loops. And then these are my scissors that I keep just for cutting ribbon. I don't have small children in the house anymore, although I do have a son who, if he got the chance, would grab my scissors and use them for, I don't know what, motorcycle repairs or something, but he tends not to come in my craft room. He doesn't know all the exciting things I have in here. Okay, so there's my bow. I'm going to attach that with some glue dots. These are definitely the best thing to hold on ribbon and all sorts of other embellishments as well. There we go. So now I just want to pop on some of these gold holly leaves, and I want a couple of large ones and a couple of small ones. So when you come to stick these on, the two sides don't look that different, except that on one side you can see these little embossed leaf veins, so you want to have that side facing upwards. So glue dots again. I'll just put a couple on these larger leaves. And check your leaf veins, make sure that they're all going the right way down towards the tip of the leaf. And then I'm going to pop these little ones up here. And then I just need some of the red rhinestones. Okay, so those must be on my desk somewhere. There they are. They're self-adhesive like all the other rhinestones, so they're really easy to use. And they seem to be just the right size, they're not too big. There we go. So that's the front of my card done. I'm just going to stamp the inside. So I carefully cleaned my stamp, didn't I? Didn't need to do that, never mind. I can clean it again. And I meant to cut a piece of patterned paper just to go across the bottom there, but I can do that now. I don't think I've got a bit in my little pack. No. So let me find a piece. Okay, which one do I need? This one. There we go. So I just want a little strip to go across there. Usually do about 1/2 inch for this. So I always stick it on and then cut it to size, because even if I measure it so that it's the same size as my insert, which is 5.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, it's very easy to just be at the tiniest fraction different, and I definitely don't want that to be short. So let's just snip that off on the back like that. There we are. Tell me if the light is okay for you. I could switch on my light if you can't see very well. As I say, it seems to be getting darker and darker outside. So if you could see better with a bit more light, let me know. I can always switch it on for you to see, and then I can turn it off again if it's not helpful. There we go. So I used very vanilla card for my tag and for the insert. Just seems to me that this paper, which has got a beigey background, was just very slightly vintagey, and I quite liked the vanilla with that. So here we are. There's my 2 cards. The same but different. I've probably said to you before, I quite often craft this way. I find it very difficult to make 2 cards which are completely identical to each other. That just doesn't sit well with me, but you can see that it's the same design. I've just changed the papers, changed up the colours of the card a little bit, changed the colours of the ink. And Mary's just said her husband used her best scissors for cutting carpet a few years ago. Oh, Mary, my goodness me. I bet he was in the doghouse. That's not good. Okay, all right, so let's put those to one side and bring in something else. You've all gone very quiet. I hope you're still there. I hope you can still hear me okay. Okay, so I decided that I would bring back this card fold. This is, I think, my most watched video, which is one from way back in February, I believe it was. I did write it down. Let me find my bit of paper. February the 12th. And it's a fold using patterned paper, which I first saw demonstrated by an American Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, Rhonda Wade, and I loved it, and I used it in a video here, and people just went mad for it, and people are still showing me cards they've made using this fold. And in fact, if you looked at my Facebook page earlier today, you will have seen that today's creative customer was Jan, and she has made some absolutely stunning cards using the Whimsy and Wonder paper and this very fold. So it's lovely. It's a way of showing both sides of your patterned paper. So it's like a triple panel card. So you can put something in there. Now you could put something on all the panels if you wanted, or you could put something there and here, so that when it stands up like that, you can see the two. So it's really up to you. There's lots you could do. You could even put something on the back and make it into almost more of a book kind of card. But it's a really pretty fold. When you've got paper like this that is just so gorgeous, it's really nice to be able to show both sides of it. So I've got some measurements for you here. Those are there, and I'm going to do some scoring now so you can actually see me do that. Basically, the paper is scored into 3 panels with 2 score lines, but they're not quite even. That means that when you open the card, this panel here doesn't reach this fold line, and that means that it folds really easily. You haven't got a lot of bulk here kind of getting caught up in the fold. It's also very easy to open it there. So I do like that, this kind of uneven folding. My die cut pieces here are cut with the Scalloped Contours dies, which is this set here. It coordinates with a stamp set, so you've got the flowers here which are cut out, but I love it for all these shaped layers, and lots of them are perforated or split, and you've got this lovely curved die here as well, which is really nice for edges. So that's the dies I used, but you could do this with circles, you could do it with squares, you could do it with stitched rectangles, stitched so sweetly dies, which is another favourite set of mine. So whatever you fancied for those. So on this one I've used Evening Evergreen card. The one I'm going to make, I've used Garden Green because this is a bit brighter green. I think Garden Green goes better with it. So when you're scoring your paper, it's a good idea to score it with the wrong side up. So whatever you want to be on the inside, have that facing upwards. And that will make sure that your shorter panel is on the right hand side, so it folds the right way round. Excuse me. So let me bring in my trimmer and I can do my scoring. So my pattern paper is 6 inches by 12 inches. So I'm checking the way up. So for me that looks upside down. So let me make sure it's up the right way. And when you cut it, make sure that you cut it correctly, because you don't want a piece. Have I got one to show you? I picked one out that was just in my paper pack and thought, oh, that will do. Here we go, it was this one. And then I thought, actually, these evergreen fir branches look like they should be going vertically, not horizontally. So I rejected that piece for that one. Can you see the difference? If I put those two together. These are all kind of going sideways, these are all going up. So check your direction and then turn it over and score on what's going to be the inside. So I'm going to score it landscape with a long edge at the top at 4 1/8 of an inch. So I'm sorry about the 8th. 4 1/8, and then 8 1/4 inches. And don't press too hard with your scoring blade because it's only paper. You don't want to accidentally split your paper. So that's all the scoring done. Very easy. I'll tell you that again. Paper with the inside facing you, then score it at 4 1/8 and 8 1/4 inches. Then I'm going to fold on those score lines. And then this is going to become my card base. There we are. So you can see that this panel is just a little bit short of that fold, which is exactly what we needed. Then I've got various pieces to go on the front. So I have my 2 die cut pieces cut with those Scalloped Contours dies. Then I've got some matting and layering pieces for inside. I've also got a couple of spares here in case I mess up my stamping. There we go. So if I put that measurement sheet next to them, you can jot those measurements down if you need them. So one of them is slightly wider than the other. So this one here, the green, garden green, is 2.5 by 4.5 inches, and the white is 2 1/4 by 4 1/4 inches. And then this panel is 2 1/4 by 4.5 for the green, and 2 by 4 1/4 for the white. And if I bring back my completed card, the one that I've put in the centre inside is the wider one, and there's a bit of space for writing on that. And then this one is just decoration, but you can play with the sizes of the panels. You can add extra layers if you want more colours showing. You know, you don't have to slavishly follow my measurements, but I do know that sometimes it's nice to have a starting point. Okay, so I'm going to do the panel for the writing on first, which is this one. So I'm going to do some berries and some evergreen branches. I've actually used stamps from the Poinsettia Petals set. Again, this was one that's carried over from last year. And I picked it out because it's got berries on it, and it's got a, if I can see it, a pine branch here, echoing the shapes on the paper. But it isn't actually the stamp set designed to go with this, but this is what I mean about this paper going with all sorts of things. If you've got other Christmassy things in your craft room or in your cupboard or wherever you keep your bits and pieces, then I'm sure you're going to have something that will work. Just pull out my inks. So I have garden green ink and real red ink. I've also got an early espresso Stampin' Right marker, so not a stamping blend. This is not the alcohol ink marker, this is the water-based marker. So let me do a little bit of stamping on here. So I'm just going to use garden green for the berry stems. That, and I need to put my foam mat underneath because I'm using a photopolymer stamp set. There we go, that's better. And then I'm going to fill in the berries with the coordinating stamp in real red, and I will probably have to pull this down closer to me so that I can see what I'm doing, because I have to get my head right over the top. So this will line up with the berries like that, but I'm going to have to pull it towards me. So if you can't see, I'm really sorry. I'll show you the end result. There we go. So my berries are now red, and each one's got just a little highlight that's built into the stamping, so I think that's really pretty. So I'll pull this down towards me again, line up my stamp. It's a photopolymer stamp, so I can see what I'm doing by looking through the stamp. So that's my panel for the center of my card. I just need to glue that to the contrasting card. There we are. And this is the one where I will write my message. Let's open up my card, and that's going to go there in the middle. So my other panel is going to go on here, and on this one I'm going to stamp some words, and then I'm also going to stamp some more berries and some pine branches. So I'll start off with my words, and I've got this one which says warm wishes from our home to yours. And stamp that in green, garden green. And then I'm going to stamp some berries and some of those evergreen branches, and I'm going to go off the edge of this piece of card. So I'm actually just going to tuck my mat under my grid paper, because that way I'm not going to get it really covered in ink when I stamp over the edge, because if I do get it covered in ink, you can guarantee that's going to transfer all over the place. Okay, so here's a stem of berries. Let's just get that red on them. I've got this pine branch here, so I'm inking that with garden green, and then I'm actually going to, I don't know if you can see, there is a little pine cone there. So I'm actually just going to use a cotton bud just to pull the green ink off that pine cone. I probably won't get every trace of it, but that's okay. And then I'm going to use my early espresso marker to ink up the pine cone. And then when I stamp it, I'll have a pine branch with a cone. There we are. Let me lift that. Hopefully, if I bring it up slowly, you can see that. Just wait for my, oops, bring it forwards, that's better. How close can I bring it and keep it in focus? Let's try. Hoping you can see that that little pine cone at the end is brown. That's probably too close, it looks a little bit blurry, but anyway, there we go. And so I'm just going to repeat that process. I'm not actually cleaning my stamp each time. I'm dabbing it off on my grid paper. That will get off traces of ink that are left on the stamp. There's not really very much brown left on here to get into my green ink pad. I just feel it needs another one there. And then some more berries at the bottom. Let's change the direction a bit. Like that. Excuse my head, if that's what you're getting. Bit more pine branch. I could colour the whole stamp using markers. I could colour the green using a marker in the same way, but this is just a little bit speedier. Can't decide where to go with this. Across there, I think. There we are. call that it for that piece and find my green card. There it is. I think I wish I'd done the words in early espresso ink now, but never mind. That's fine. So that one is going to go on here. Make sure I've got it all up the right way. There we go. What was the stamp with the berries and the pine cone? It's in here. It's from Poinsettia Petals, Mary. So this is in the annual catalogue. And that's the one with the pine branch. And then these are the two stamps I've used for the berries. And I've used these stamps on the next card as well. It's a lovely set. I came to it quite late last year. I only just got it before Christmas. I didn't use it very much, but I'm using it a lot more this year. All right, so now let's sort out the front and then I'll show you the whole card again. So these are my two die cut pieces. So I've got a bigger stamp for here which says Christmas wishes and joyful greetings. That is from Snow Wonder, which again is in the annual catalogue. It's this one here. Lovely snowman, I really like this one. So I'm going to go with garden green for the words, and it just about fits on this die cut. So I need to take my time and place it carefully so don't go off the edges. And I'm going up just a little bit of centre because I'm going to add a ribbon underneath. And actually I didn't do very well on the and there, so let me show you a trick I often use if that happens. So I've got a blender pen here and I'm just going to squeeze my ink pad and put some ink on the lid. Then with my blender pen I'm going to pick up a little bit of that ink, just check to see how dark it is on here, and then I'm going to really gently just touch in my gappy letters. You need a steady hand. You don't want to overdo it. There we go, that's better. You can also use the fine end of a Stampin' Right marker for that, but I haven't got mine handy, so I'm using my blender pen trick. But that's got me out of a lot of holes. If my stamping's perfect except for just a tiny little bit, I very often reach for my blender pen and just touch it up very carefully. So let's just layer these two pieces together. This white one actually has slits cut along it so you can weave ribbon through and so on, but I'm not using it for that today. Oop. Let's get that straight. There we go, I think that's there. And then I'm going to put that on the front of my card. I'm just going to have some tea before I tie a bow. I think that might help. Okay, so the ribbon I'm using is, I'm just looking to see what it's called, sheer ribbon, and it's real red. And I've become a bit obsessed with these double loop bows. Those of you that come to classes and things will know that. We spent quite a lot of time yesterday tying these for one of the cards. So I just really like them. I just think they're a little bit more to them than a standard bow. So I'm going to do one of those now. So I will end up having to cut the ribbon off the reel, but I'm just going to get started with it so that I end up with roughly the right amount without wasting any. If you've seen me do this before, then apologies, you'll be an expert by now, but I'm just going to try and talk through it again for those of you that aren't so sure. So the width of the bow from loop to loop is determined by how wide apart those two fingers are. So about that, I reckon, looks about right. And then I'm going to hold the short end of the ribbon against my middle finger with my thumb. And this is my left hand. I'm right-handed, so it's my non-dominant hand. And I'm going to put the ribbon over my finger, bring it between my fingers, around my bottom finger, between my fingers, over my top finger, between my fingers, and around the bottom finger. And I've got 2 complete loops around each finger. That's important. And at this point I need to cut off my ribbon, so I'm just going to estimate how much more I'll need. About there, I think. Okay, so here we are. So this is my end of ribbon, and I'm going to bring this across the center and poke it through between my fingers like that. So it makes a sort of a loop. I turn my hands, hopefully you can see that. So then I bring that same end of ribbon back to the front, and then I'm, oops, that's coming off my finger. That complicates the explanation. There we go. So this is my loop here. This is my end. I'm going to bring it under that loop from the bottom and pull it out of the top, and then pull it tight, and that forms the ribbon that goes around the center of the bow. There we go. And then I just take everything off my fingers, and that is my double looped bow. So I can fiddle a little bit with it. I can slide the center one way or the other if it's not really in the middle, pull it nice and tight, and then trim off my ends. And then that can come onto my card with some glue dots. End has come down the bottom. I was expecting it to be at the top, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to trim the ribbon the other way. There we go, that's fine. Sometimes bows have a mind of their own, don't they? There we go. So that's now on my card, and the last thing are just some embellishments. So have I got those on the desk? Can't see them. I wonder if I put them away. Yeah, looks like I did. So I thought just a little bit of gold here was quite nice. So these are the Gilded Gems. And I'm just going to scatter a few of these around. There's 3 sizes of them. So let's have a look. That's a medium. That one's a large. That's a little one. Quite often kind of audition them. Yeah, that one there, I think. There we go. So that is my card completed. I'll open it up and show you. So there we go. So that is card number 2 for today. do really like these. I think they're so beautiful with all the paper showing. And then finally, I have this one for you. So for this one, my words are from the Poinsettia Petals stamp set again, and I've stamped and die cut my poinsettia using the Poinsettia Petal stamps and the coordinating poinsettia dies. So I'm hoping you can see that. I've used some of the red rhinestones in the middle. It's a little bit kind of sparkly without being too blingy, because again I've used this sort of vintagey paper here, and I've used some of the Evening Evergreen sheer ribbon to make some little loops. And I've stamped on crumb cake here. Instead of picking vanilla or white, I've stamped on crumb cake and just stamped inside. So I'm going to make a version of this now, but the same but different once again. So let me pull in all the bits. So I've got a standard card base. I started off with card that was 8 inches by 5 3/4, and I scored it at 4 inches, and I've picked early espresso for this. Then I've got a piece of contrast card which is 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, so it's the same length as my card base, it's just not as wide. And then I've used the pine cones patterned paper this time, and this is 3 1/2 inches by 5 3/4, so the same length again but a little bit narrower. There we go. So those are going to layer together like that. Then I've got a strip of crumb cake. This measures 1 1/2 by 4 1/4. I'm going to end up trimming some of it off, but I want it to be long enough to go across at an angle like this, and then I'll end up just trimming that excess off. My insert's just my standard insert, 5 1/2 by 3 3/4 inches. And I've got a little strip of paper to go on the insert. And then I've pre-cut my poinsettias, and let me put them on some dark card to show you. So I've cut 2 in each of these sizes, and I've used the snowy white velvet paper, which is in the July to December mini catalogue, and I'm hoping you can see that the dies will cut out the outside, but there's also a die to cut, or not to cut, but to emboss the veins. I'm tilting that a little bit. I'm hoping you can see the veins on there. So you can use the 2 dies together, so you can just cut out a stamped image using the outline die, or you can use it with the embossing die if you just want cut and embossed card, which is what I've done here. And these have a lovely soft texture, these cut in velvet card, velvet paper. Alright, so I'm going to glue my flower pieces together first of all, and just give them a chance to get really firmly set before I use them. And I'm just going to curl them a little bit with my bone folder. I don't want to be too rough because I don't want to destroy the embossing, but it just makes them a little bit more of an interesting shape, although to be fair they probably won't be this interesting shape if they go in an envelope through the post, but never mind. When you're doing this curling, don't be too enthusiastic because you don't want to rip the petals off. I've just realised I didn't cut a spare one if I do that, so I'll have to be very careful. So I'm curling them one way from underneath, and then I'm curling just the tips on top to give me a very gentle S-shaped flower. So I'm just going to layer these together. Using a little bit more glue than I normally would, because some of it's going to be soaked up by the pile on the velvet paper. So I'm kind of crisscrossing those two large pieces to fill in the gaps in the flowers, and then I'll do the same with the smaller ones on top. There we are. So that's my flower. I'm just going to set it aside. I'm just going to pop a stamp block on it just to, that one's come adrift, there we go. That multi-purpose glue grabs really quickly with paper, but with something like this that's not straightforward card, it sometimes needs just a little bit longer to set up. So we'll leave those there and work on this. So this is my layers here. I'm just going to stamp this first. And so my image is May Magic and Wonder Bloom This Holiday, which is, as I say, is from the Poinsettia Petals set. And I'm looking, there we go, my Evening Evergreen ink pad. I think I'm going to do that. Or shall I use espresso? Do you know, I think I might use early espresso actually. Let's find that. And I need my stamping mat. There we go. So I'm actually going to lay this on the paper at an angle so that will help me get my stamping in the right place. So I've got both edges of the strip overlapping the edges of my paper, and then I want my words to be to one side and to be the bottom of the word line, that's to be parallel with the bottom of my paper. So I wouldn't normally stamp with something on top of patterned paper, but that should just help me with the placement. Right, so now I can glue that onto my paper layer. And I just need to get those words straight. There we are. I think that's about it. And then I'm going to cut off the excess. I shall end up with glue on my scissors, but that's okay. I'll clean them off afterwards. Okay, so that's my little banner piece on there. And now I can layer it onto the other pieces of card. So that's that. So I'm going to set that aside for the moment and deal with my ribbon. So I do really like these little loops of ribbon popping up there. And I thought about using the faux suede trim, and if I wanted a really vintagey look, I think that would be the one to use. But I decided in the end to use a gold, but instead of using the really bright gold, I've used this one. This is the Gold Shimmer ribbon, which is in the annual catalogue. and I just think that just adds a little bit of lightness to it, but without going too dark. So I'm going to cut myself three pieces. So I just make the loop and then cut it off, and then I cut them all the same, but I'll tell you how long that is. Measuring it on my grid paper, so that's 3 3/4 inches long, that piece of ribbon, but it's not crucial because you've got quite a lot of leeway for adjusting it when you come to fix it onto your flower. But by cutting all the pieces the same length, you'll end up with loops that are the same length as each other, so it'll be even. Then I'm going to bring in my glue dots and put one on one end of each piece of ribbon and then just join them together. And I'm not going directly on top. Let's see if you could see that. I don't know if that's showing. I'm just going slightly askew. So my loop looks like that, rather than, let's see if I can hold this together and show you. That might be a big ask. If I put that one on my hand and then put that one next to it. So this one, which is much more open. Now that's just because that's the look that I like. Of course you can stick these together straight if that's what you prefer. Always use these mini glue dots if you're adding ribbon to anything. The liquid glue will hold ribbon, but it almost always soaks through and shows on the front. And you also have to wait for it to dry, and as it soaks through and you press the ribbon down, you get it all over your fingers. So all in all, these are a much better bet. Okay, let me just have a drop more of my tea. My throat is starting to get dry. So I'll put my light on and see if that helps. It may not. Let me know if you want me to turn it off. I don't know if that's helped or not. Gosh, we're starting to get so cluttered here as well. Let me move a few stamps and bits and pieces out of the way. And then I can put things in the right place for you to see them, hopefully. Okay. Right, so that's my card. Here's my poinsettia, which has now stuck together nicely. And I'm just going to add my loops of ribbon to the back. So more glue dots. And then I'm just going to, working from the front, I'm just going to add that where it looks right, really, which is about there for me. An odd number of pieces of ribbon or embellishments, whatever it is you're working with, always looks better than an even number. So I've got 3, I could have had 5. And I'm just spacing them around here. I've actually got 2, or aiming to have 2, a little bit closer to each other than the one. There we go. So that's going to fit on there like that. So let me turn that over. So I'm going to put glue dots onto the ribbon to hold those parts onto my card. And then I'm going to put dimensionals onto the flower just to help even it up. Where I've got the ribbon, in fact here in the middle I've got 4 thicknesses of ribbon. So if I just use ordinary glue, it's not going to sit flat. So instead, if I put dimensionals on the actual flower, that will help compensate for the extra thickness I've got in the middle where the ribbon is. And then that is ready to go on my card. So it's quite a big embellishment. It's just a matter of twisting it round so I'm not obscuring the words too much. There we go. So that's fixed on there nicely. And then I've got some of these wonderful gems. They are wonderful. some are green. No, not green. There's no green. Don't go looking for the green. You'll be disappointed. Some are red and some are gold. And again, if I bring them up, hopefully you can see. I don't know how well it will focus, but they have got little specks of glitter in them. They're really pretty, and some have got loads of glitter and some have got a little bit less glitter. It's kind of random, but which I really do like. I love a bit of random. So I was thinking I would use some of these gold ones in the middle, and I think I'm going to use the smaller ones actually. I've got a few odd ones on here, and then I'll take some from the bigger pack as well. So I'm just going to fill up the centre of my poinsettia with these little gems. And given that each one is different, I'm trying to kind of spread out the darker ones and the paler ones. There we are. I didn't intend arranging them in a little flower shape, but they seem to fit quite nicely that way. Hopefully you can see that okay. So that gold echoes the gold in the ribbon, but it's not too blingy, it's not too sparkly. It's still got a slightly muted, maybe a slightly vintage feel to it. So that's the front of my card done. I just need to do my insert now. So on this one, I stamped Merry Christmas inside. Such a nice Merry Christmas, which is also from the Poinsettia Petals set. So worth saying that the images on here are only 65% of the actual size. There are so many of them that they wouldn't fit on the front otherwise. So that's the Merry Christmas image. This is the Merry Christmas stamp, so it's much bigger than it looks on there. So I'm going to stamp that in early espresso ink again. Turn that over, it's a little bit grubby on the back. I think I've got some finger marks on that. There we go. It's a lovely Merry Christmas, this one. Really good size. And then I've got that little strip. This is just a scrappy piece really. I keep all these little strips because they go beautifully either along the outside bottom of an envelope, or they'll go on an insert like this. And there's lots of other things you can do, of course, with little scrap strips. If you're anything like me, I'm sure you've got boxes and boxes of them. If I straighten this up on my grid paper, then I can use the grid to make sure that my paper strip is straight. There we are. Let's just trim off the excess. And pop that into my card, and this one is done. There we are. So two different versions again of exactly the same card. All I've done is use a different pattern of paper from the pack and then change the colours accordingly. So I do really like this. I was going to say it's my favourite. I don't know if it is my favourite actually. I like all the cards I've made today. So let me bring the other two back to show you. I'll take that one away. That's the one I prepared earlier. So this is the triple panel one. I was just dithering about which of these two I'd actually made with you, but I think it was this one. If you think it was the other one, let me know. I think it was this one. And there we are. If I can bring this up slowly, you might be able to see it a little bit closer too. My photography guru tells me to bring it up slowly, so let's see if that helps. I think it is. There we are. So those are today's cards. I hope you've been crafting along with me. I don't think I actually asked you if you had been. But if you've been crafting along with me, do pop a photograph in the comments underneath this video. Or send me one. Email me a photograph of your card if you would rather, because I always really love to see what you make. And they'll probably be completely different to mine as well, and will inspire me to make something else on top. So I'm just going to hopefully move the camera back, not lose you in the interim, and then I can say bye-bye to you, so bear with me. Let's have a look and see if I can do this. Okay, Mary's asking me a question. So Mary wants to know, she's asking if you can get a set of reinkers for the papaya set together, or if you have to order them individually. So I think you're talking about the newest ink colours, aren't you, Mary? And the answer to that is, I'm not certain, but let me have a look. I have a catalogue here, and I think the answer is you have to order them individually. The sets of 10 you can order as a group, but I'm pretty sure that the sets of 5 you have to order individually. But let me double check, and then I can give you a definitive answer. Yes, so I'm looking at page 126 in the annual catalogue, and where they've got the ink refill bundles, they've actually got a line through where it's the sets of 5, the in colours, so you can't buy the set together. I'm afraid you're going to have to put down all 5 reference numbers, so I'm sorry about that. You can get them, but you can't order them in one little pack with 1 reference number. But I can help you with those if that's something that you need. Okay, let me just check and see if there's anything else. Oh, hi Carol. Carol said she got interrupted with phone calls, so she'll watch it again later as well. Well, that's nice to know, Carol. Nice to know you're going to watch it again later. I'm sorry you got interrupted, but thank you. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining me today. I'm sorry about the technical hitch. I've no idea what it was. As I say, it was looking fine from my end, but then I could see it wasn't from your end, so who knows. Join me next week. Oh, I didn't tell you what I'm going to do next week. Next week, I'm going to do an unboxing and crafting with a new kit, which is this one. Now, I know the writing is back to front for you. It's the Expressions in Colour kit. So mine has come, but I haven't unwrapped it. So how restrained is that? It coordinates with one of the suites in the annual catalogue, which is the, just making sure I get the right name, I think it's Expressions in Ink suite in the annual catalogue, which I absolutely adore. I was using it in class yesterday. A lot of other people were saying how much they love that. So this kit coordinates with that. It's got the similar colours and images. Oops, collapse of the equipment, something's come loose. There we are. So I'm looking forward to crafting with that with you next week. So join me at 2 o'clock next Friday, and I'll be unboxing this, showing you what's in there, and then just going for it. So I don't know what I'm going to be making until we get to Friday. So I look forward to seeing you then. Have a great weekend. If you can hit that like and share buttons, I will be very grateful to you, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.